So today's guest is Adam Slawson, the founder of PlightClub, which I will hand over to Adam and he can explain a little bit for those who haven't seen my previous podcast with him, a little bit about what that involves. Hi, Adam.
Hello. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, thanks for being
Um,
back.
Thank you. So, Plight Club is a community that is united by vulnerability, fueled by freedom, and connected through clothing. So, the idea is to, if you see a Plight Club top, or you like a Plight Club shirt, and you ask that question, "What's Plight Club?" Or I like to say, "I like your shirt." Then it's explained to you what it's united by vulnerability, fueled by freedom. The idea is the conversation gets deeper more quickly, which it does. You don't often, as soon as you mention the word vulnerability or freedom, that kind of, you don't often then start talking about the weather. So the whole concept of the brand is clothing and events to enable people to express themselves more, who they divinely are, and to push through the feeling of vulnerability and realize that it's the catalyst to our freedom rather than the fear signal that it appears to be. Because when you flip that switch or flip that thinking in your brain, life starts to get a lot of fun because you're not limited by fear anymore. So that's the concept with PlightClub.
It's really on point to conversations that I've been having with people the last couple of days, just in my personal life. I had a friend who's really into this girl, and they've been like messing about for a couple of years now, and it just doesn't get to this connective bit, and they keep like pulling and pulling, pushing and pulling, because neither of them has allowed themselves to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And this is what I was saying to him. I was like, well, you're going to have to take the lead and be vulnerable and let her know that the reason you behaved like that was because you were triggered and you wanted, and he said, yeah, but then I'm not going to look like a geezer, am I? And like I'm in control, and then I'm just going to look silly. And I went, and I said, do you want something beautiful with her, or do you want to continue playing games? And I feel like, particularly for men, I think as women have kind of risen, we're in this sort of recent culture where we're not kind of in competition with each other anymore, and we're helping our sisters rise more. I think that we've really allowing ourselves to be seen and be vulnerable because we're not being judged anymore by each other. In the alternative worlds, I'm sure there's still some of that, but generally, that's what I'm seeing a lot more of. And so women are really sort of finding their vulnerability and who am I and expressing themselves. But I still think there's a lot of work to do with this with the men, with the masculine. Vulnerability is such a drop of the guard, isn't it?
Yeah, it's exposing.
And the ego and all of these things, and it's so challenging. And so this is why the work like what you're doing is just important, and you make it fun, don't you, and accessible.
I do, yeah, and which we can talk about that in a second. What we're doing at Elevating, what I want to bring in, and for those that are listening around vulnerability, particularly, is my work from PlightClub and to the work that I do as the frequency mentor is about frequency, right? And so the whole world or whole universe is little balls that are called atoms floating through space, and they vibrate, right? And so in the context, if you bring that was a really big esoteric thought there, but bring it right down to that guy in the relationship. You can, and I've been that guy in relationships and wanting to be all like, yeah, I'm confident doing those things. But if you're acting it, particularly women, people though, but particularly women can feel it. And what often happens, and it sounds like this is a big word or a powerful word that I'll bring in, but it is you end up accidentally gaslighting people. Because you're saying one thing, but they can feel something else. And so it's like, it's a really disconcerting place for a person to be. But, and so what women and the feminine craves generally is safety. So the thing that you can do if you speak and say you're exposed, like I'm feeling nervous, or if you say that confidently, then you're in a position where the authenticity of your frequency matches the words, and that creates the container of safety for the relationship to develop. And it never will until that happens, because it needs and the phrase I use for PlightClub is there's a vulnerability catch ring. And it's like, we need to practice that within ourselves and trust that when we're vulnerable, our nervous systems will catch us. But when you get confident at that, you can then obviously be more vulnerable with other people, and then obviously with the hope that they catch you, and those listening, you think of the feeling when you confess something that you really, really enjoy, and someone goes, oh yeah, but when you confess something that's really like, oh, I'm not sure if they're gonna agree, and then they do, and you're like, oh wow, your nervous system just goes, I feel seen and heard and met, right?
Yeah, and often they'll meet you with me too,
Yeah, exactly.
and
Yeah,
then you think, because I found the more vulnerable I am and the more I just am an open book, I'll say things, and sometimes I call it like the Hagrid, where I think I shouldn't have said that, because I'm just so open and vulnerable that I don't even think before I speak, and it all just comes out, and I think I shouldn't have said that. But then I'm met with, oh, I'm kind of glad you said that because I've been feeling that too, or
yeah,
and so it kind of it invites that person to share what they've also been holding on to, and then you realize, well, we've all been feeling the same in this situation, or
100%. Yeah,
whatever.
and that's what PlightClub and my work's about. It's a huge permission slip.
Yeah.
So it's permission, the more I can be vulnerable and more myself, the more the person around you, the people around you can be too, And I, for a lot of my life, was afraid if I shine my light, I put other people into shadow. But it's
Mm,
actually not, and I felt guilty for that. But it's not true. It's like the more I shine my light, the more it gives other people for permission to shine theirs too,
mm.
and it's a really powerful thing to a raw ride to go on, like facing into your own shadow and your own kind of things for my conditioning for whatever reasons, and then pushing through the fears each day, and then doing that has enabled obviously through PlightClub, but also through the events that I do along inside PlightClub has helped a lot of people take a step into being a bit more brave, a bit more
And,
courageous.
and you will have triggered some people with your light, but then
Sure.
they need to be triggered probably, So even if it is that you're affecting people in a negative way, that could still be a very positive part of their journey to have been triggered by your light.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's something that I struggle with a lot. I'm like, who do I think I am showing up on a podcast or doing this or doing that? And then every now and again I'll kind of think, oh, have I been too out there? Maybe I need to like shrivel back into my cave again. And it's something that we're constantly working with, isn't it? When
Yeah.
you do put yourself out
Yeah.
there.
And in the work that I do as a mentor around frequency is helping people understand that life around us is a mirror directly reflecting back to us what we need to evolve, in essence.
Mm,
And so if someone triggers you and you are aware of the trigger and you can go, oh, that brought something up for me, and sit with the discomfort, not react to it, and just be with it and allow yourself to feel, in short, then that trigger is the best thing that could have possibly happened to you. If you get triggered and you shout at them or do it, then of course it doesn't feel great, but you're reacting. And so when you
mm.
can learn to hold yourself and to respond rather than react, the magic of life starts to unfold. And there's a book called The Wisdom of Insecurity by Alan Watts, and the wisdom in the vulnerability or insecurity and being able to sit with it, you start to align with the life that you were born to live. And slowly but surely, like the ticking of a clock, because like you start to face a different reality slowly but surely, and you
Yeah.
align with one that feels truer, more you, more passionate, more everything, and with that, like, well, your life starts to like feel, yeah, I feel like I'm on course, and there's no better feeling than feeling like knowing that you're doing the thing that you were born to do.
Yeah,
Like,
and if you're triggered and you react, then fine. You felt a feeling and you reacted, but then process that and then take responsibility for your
exactly.
reaction. And then that's the vulnerable key, which a lot of people react and then they can't be seen to be, well, I'm not taking responsibility of that because I don't want to be at fault, and
Mm,
that can
mm.
be quite a block for people, because it's when you do accept that fault that you go, actually, yeah, I messed up there, and that's because of this. And then it allows the other person to fully see you, because you're like, oh right, yeah, I understand why you reacted like that. And then that vulnerability really helps you understand yourself more, helps other people understand you more, so that you can connect more strongly. But then it helps you really fully align to your highest timeline, because you're, like you said, you're just completely in alignment then, because it's everything's real. There's no masks and hiding
Mm,
and trying to be something I'm not anymore, and all of those things, isn't it?
And yeah, people, when in chakra talk, if you keep blaming the mirror as such and don't take responsibility for what's going on, you have essentially a hole in your root chakra, and so there's no end to that blame, right? And so there
Mm.
needs to be a stop, right? And as soon as you say, okay, sorry, or whatever's needed, and go, okay, yeah, I was at fault there, the other person most likely will go, that's all right, okay, that's okay. But
Yeah.
they're, and not that they're desperate for a sorry or whatever it is. It's a thing of, because they feel the authenticity in it. And but for people that are, there's a phrase, and I've used it from Peter Crone, but he said, if you're walking past a mirror and you notice there's a spot on your head, you don't blame the mirror. Like, and if you keep blaming the mirror, it's like it's never gonna heal or do anything, is it? So you take responsibility and allow yourself to be in that. And to bring that to a really, a real example again in relationships is like me, my partner, that we had and I think loads of people, but I'm going to speak from a man's point of view, going into justification, like I didn't do anything wrong, or I'm a good boy. And this is obviously conditioning with, parents and things.
Yeah.
But as an example, years ago, well, yeah, it was quite a few years ago now, but we were like, she's got curly hair and we were in the bathroom and I was
Beautiful curly hair,
has
like a
beautiful curly.
goddess. Yeah.
And we were in the bathroom and I playfully just like went to stroke the end of her hair. I didn't even stroke it. And she went like and reacted, right? And I then reacted to her reaction and we had a little bit of an argument. And then I left the room and then I came back and I took about a few steps out of the room and I was like, and caught it. And I was like, I've just done that thing again where I've reacted to her reaction. And I went back in and I said, I've just done that thing again, haven't I? Sorry. And then we have a proper good talk about it. But what matters in that scenario is, I thought, well, I only just touched her hair. And so her reaction was unjustified, right?
Yeah.
However, when you brush curly hair, it goes a bit like weird, right? And so
Yeah.
I don't know when she was a child, like whether she, whether bullying happened around the curly hair, whatever, but something was there, right? So obviously
Mhm.
she reacted. And so, but then me going, so that's not fair. That's not what needed to happen. Was like, I recognize the pain, not the blame, so
Mm.
something's there. But the ability to do that is literally like training a muscle. I
Yeah.
would, for years, didn't catch that justification thing. But then, okay, then it took me about 2 days to realize, oh, okay, I've done that thing again. And then it's like 2 hours, and then it's like and then it's kind of like 2 minutes now. It's like,
Mm.
okay. But that
Yeah.
was my own healing journey with regards to mainly towards my mother wound of
Yeah.
justifying that. But it's really a real world example of where you can sit with that.
Yeah. And in relationships, whether it's friendship, because I haven't been in a relationship with a man for 6 years, nearly 7 years now, because my last breakup was so horrific and so broken that I haven't been able to I haven't been able to allow myself to open up to somebody that much yet. But then I've been practicing little baby steps with dating and friendships and my kids. There's like other relationships in my life where if you're not in that relationship with intimately with a person, there'll be lots of other people in your life that are like testing these triggers.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's I forgot where I was going with that. There was a thread and it's gone.
Well, I think I can pick it up. I'll help you pick it up. But what's really transitioned in my life with regards to relationships in the last few years is understanding that we think that, most people want a relationship in a way to enable them to feel safe, to feel like they're not alone, in short, right?
Yeah.
And when you realize that actually to be in a relationship, to be in a conscious relationship that is one of evolution, there's going to be challenges. They have been brought into your field and they're the closest, almost shiniest part of the mirror. And they're going to reflect all of your shit. And it's really challenging. There obviously has to be the love and the desire, of course, in there as well. But it's only a matter of time before they start exposing parts of you that need
broken.
to be brought, that are broken and brought and need to fight, or well, not necessarily broken. It's like a thing of need. out of alignment would be a better
Yeah.
way of
Yeah.
perhaps
Yeah.
phrasing it.
Yeah.
But
Well
you have
done.
like the honeymoon period to a relationship, and then you have the work of a relationship where shit gets
Mm,
real, but that's where you get where passion in a way changes to compassion, and you can go the depth and the feeling of a feeling. And I think that souls are here to be seen ultimately
mm,
and heard and really met in that way. And the only way to get that and to allow yourself to be seen is to show you can't know if you keep it all locked up, you're
mm,
gonna allow yourself to be seen. But with that comes the risk of someone not seeing you,
mm,
and the fear of that is like it can, devastation. And if you've been in relationships before where where people have been hurt, I have for sure.
yeah.
It take your nervous system is protects itself. Mine used to go into numbness when love was getting closer to me. I used to
Mm,
go numb. So for the majority of my 30s, when people were getting close to me, and it got to a point where that I went numb. I was like, oh well, the connection's gone, so that's it. But what's actually happening is that numbness is a sign that someone's getting closer to me, not further away.
mm,
And that, for me to get my head around that, it took a while. But it's knowing, as though there's a phrase of know thyself. If you start to learn and know that your reactions are what they are, and it's like
mm.
learning how your body works and feels and things. And long and short of it, if you're reacting, you're getting anxious, you're getting angry, or you're getting avoidant, it means that you've been triggered in some way. And
Mm.
if you reframe that into a good thing, and you go, oh, it's like there's a fire alarm going off in your body, but you're not attending to the fire. Like, so it's like, so you can kind of keep going and ignore it. And it's like, the fire's still burning. It's just the alarm
Mm.
might be quieter for a bit, but the alarm will get louder.
Yeah, yeah. So how do you bring that into a workshop?
Oh, yeah, good way, good segue. Um, so the what I'm doing at Elevate this year is the frequency experience, and so it's two parts. And the first part of it is interactive workshop around how to trust yourself when it matters. So it's like a big in my work. What I help people with, I work mainly with men, but I do it with women as well. Is that to how to stop losing yourself under pressure. Like, because when it gets to a relationship situation and that guy feels, as an example, feels like he wants to say something,
Mm.
and there's a pressure, and he just goes, oh, okay, and at that moment loses himself and goes and does an
I
act
guess
or
that
whatever.
pressure could also be things like financial
Of
issues.
course, yeah, 100%. Yeah, anything, at
Yeah.
certain moments, it's like, and I use this with regards to financial as an example. One of the ways to relax your and trust that more money will come sounds like a silly example, but it makes the point. When you go to a supermarket and you go to the eggs, and it's like most people know that organic eggs are better for you than non-organic eggs, but
Yeah.
generally they're like £5 a box or whatever it is, and
Yeah.
it's quite a lot for eggs. And so but the difference is like £2.50. So most people can afford the difference, but when
Mm.
they get to choosing the eggs, they'll go, I'll get the cheaper ones and they might say, I can't afford it, do all those things, right? And so, but what they're doing at that point in time is keeping the reality of I can't afford it alive.
Yeah.
So if instead they pick the organic eggs and sit with the discomfort or the vulnerability of, oh, I know it's only eggs, but like, you get the point.
We're hearing
Let's do
the
that.
bigger picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
allow yourself to not react, sit with that. Your nervous system is literally trying to recalibrate. It does. And slowly but surely, that is the way out of your financial situation. So having trust when it matters. And in this context, eggs don't really matter that much. But the point is that at that junction where
Mm.
it may be in a relationship and you go, okay, my nervous system is kicking off, but I can hold it and I can then speak anyway and say how I feel. That is the skill that you'll learn from the part one of the frequency experience. And then part two is called Rave AF. And so rave alcohol free, as friends, as fun, as fitness, as the swear word, of course, but most importantly, as frequency. Right. And so it's the embodiment of part one. And what we do in that is I invite, and this is in the talk part of it, but I invite people to understand that if I just take me as an example, I'm a man, I'm white, I was British. My love languages are touch and gestures. My erotic blueprint is kink and this, and I've got loads of things that make my identity, right? And so if taking in the most biggest identity movement that's happened, the LGBTQ plus movement, absolutely vital, amazing that it's happened, fully supportive of it. Ultimately, though, any definition we have for our identity is to enable us to feel like there's a sense of belonging, and therefore we feel safe. Okay, which is vitally important. As I want to emphasize that, massively important. However, what it also is a thing that how I'm different from you.
Yeah.
Right. And so for you, you identify as a woman, I assume. Yeah. So I have no idea what it's like to be a woman in this without asking questions. Literally, I can't relate at all because I'm a man. Right. However, if I say to you, because we're both humans, right? Okay, how was your human experience today? We can relate. Right. Yeah. But above that is how was your emotional experience, your energetic experience? So I invite people in the Rave AF to, and so energy being frequency, to rave as frequency. So to let go as much as you can of your identity, who you are, what doesn't, it doesn't matter what gender you are, what color you are, what, how you identify, whatever. Ultimately, we're all made of energy, and that's fucking rave as frequency. And so that's the point. And so you'll learn the science of it in part one, and then in part two, you live the physical experience, and then
I love it.
Yeah. So when you get to the point on the dance floor, like that point where it's like, can I be this weird? And it's like, yeah, you fucking can. Go for it.
On the dance floor, I don't see who you are. I'm seeing your energy, and
exactly.
I want to dance with you because you're dancing like me, and it's
exactly. So what happens is there's a DJ who creates the container of the music, and then me as the facilitator. You'll see the kind of me on stage interacting with people for part one, but part two, I'm going nuts, and being big permission slip for people to go wild, right? And so the idea of that is to get the whole thing pumping. But it's all well and good having loads of knowledge and understand, but until you have an actual practical, physical example of, oh, there was that moment where I felt a bit shy, I stepped forward and I was a bit weird, but I loved it, and I was seen by people and they didn't reject me. When you actually embody that, that's when change really happens. And it's only at that point that you do. So the point of the frequency experience is that journey. So
I love that, and I love the permission slip to be wild, because I naturally am quite wild on the dance floor. I have been always. And I was at a festival this weekend, and they had this just real pumping techno, it was just really, and it's quite fast, and then my body gets involved, but it's so repetitive that there's a point where my body, the music is just moving my body and my brain is just not involved,
amazing,
and you're just in that real trance state where your body's just reacting to the music and you don't even know. But and I remember just leaving, and I was sweating, and the next day I kept bumping into people and saying, oh, I had such a good dance last night, and they were like, yeah, we saw. But there was a judgment, as if I was too much for people.
That's them, isn't it?
It's by a few different people, and I thought, oh, this is weird.
Well, that's what is called shadow projection, and they saw you and they pointing the finger at you rather than accepting that they wish they could be as wild. If this was an example where you were right in their face, dance it, which I know you wouldn't have been, but if it was and you were imposing their space, then maybe they've got a point. But if you were just on the dance floor doing your thing, and they come up to you and say, but maybe also there might be you reflecting on their reflection, being feeling, because you feel a bit maybe a bit self-conscious about that in post after it, and so you attach a story that you to attach
a story because you just get a snippet of a few people's different comments. And one lady that I was working for, because I was doing the social media, and she said, oh, I heard that you were really dancing. I thought maybe you need a rest today because you were a bit on it. And I thought, I wasn't on anything. I was just that's just how I dance.
What festival were you at?
It was at Free Zone, which is, I must say, it's a really beautiful festival. I really loved it, but maybe they're just not. There wasn't a lot of ecstatic dance as far as I could tell. There was a lot of biodanza, but I didn't see the program though, so I might have just missed it. But
what I also would hazard a guess that what hasn't reported back to you, that you going wild was probably a permission slip for a lot of people to go, well, if she can do it, fuck it, let me get
Well, I
involved.
met new friends.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, exactly. So there's always people, and people
yeah,
on different stages of their journey, different in vulnerability, the ability to show your wounds. Like there is a spectrum to that, and some people like, and I in my vulnerability journey has, my muscles in that have improved dramatically in the last,
yeah,
5 years or so. But a long time I was, super self-conscious, and so
yeah.
without some sort of, lubrication, let's say,
Mm,
dancing wild was something that I was like, oh no, people will look at me or do whatever. But what's, the Marianne Williamson quote about what is our greatest fear is that we're not, it's something like that it's not that we're too much or something. No, it's fear isn't our greatest thing. It's the fact that we're too much, or our light is too
mm,
much. I'm really making a
yeah.
hash of the quote, but being able to accept that we all have light and a vibration wanting to
Mm,
move through us, and the more authentic you can be to your what's true, whether in that moment you're feeling a bit sad and you're just okay, or you're feeling excited and joyful, great. But if you're in the moment where you're feeling a bit sad and you fake happiness, then you're not in the authentic vibration, and that in itself will it repel people in the sense from a vibration. People can't connect with it because it's not
yeah.
doesn't feel true.
Well, I think that that's one of the hardest things when you're in, if you're intentionally in a space where you're raising your vibration, which Elevate Festival is all about. That's the whole ethos of the whole festival. And if you're on that journey of, vibrating higher and shining your light from the inside out, I would say the most challenging part of that is shining your light from the inside out in a world that isn't shiny yet, you
Yeah,
know? And I think sometimes you can feel a bit guilty, or like you said at the beginning about triggering other people, or so like the other day I witnessed those comments, but it didn't interfere with how I felt about myself in any
amazing,
way,
amazing. Yeah.
because I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because that's not what I'm used to in the circles where I usually dance.
Yeah.
But it was like witnessing it and thinking, cool, was I a bit too much on the dance floor last night, and kind of witnessing it. But I would say that's the most challenging thing, is it's okay once you've raised your vibration and you're kind of glowing from the inside out, but be ready that not everyone is going to
Yes, for sure, for
find that
sure.
comfortable. They're not going to be as comfortable in your company anymore because the resonance maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a and obviously the work that I do, I literally am a frequency mentor, and so it is all about raising your vibration or understanding
Mm,
that. But in short, there's a couple of ways or a couple of signals to enable you to raise your vibration, and it's one of the signals to listen to. And if you think of your body as a hose pipe and the energy, water running through your body, as your emotions, like when we're born and our journey, particularly like before the age of 7, lots of things that are said to us by our parents and society put kinks in our hose pipe, right? And so the resistance, which you could call the feeling of vulnerability or insecurity, and the reason that happens is so that in the future, when a similar scenario pops up, our body like goes, oh, I know what to do here to stay safe, right? And it's programming, of course. But a lot of our programming as we get into our adult years is redundant. It's not useful anymore. But also one of the things to raise your vibration is to enable yourself to witness, okay, at the moments where I feel angry, anxious, or avoidant, is like that's I've met a kink in my hose pipe. So to be able to go, okay, what's needed at this point for me to be able to recalibrate my nervous system, which might well be, is like, I just need to sit in the sadness, or I need to
mm,
sit in the guilt or the shame or the whatever. And so to remove slowly but surely those kinks. But the other end of that is to feel, okay, I feel inspired to go in this direction. And that's like when that inspiration is a bit like turning the tap on a faucet of a hose and more water's coming through. It's like the energy of guiding you, right? And the way that have we got time? We've got time for it. It's like a 2-minute story. Shall I
yeah,
do it?
go for it. Yeah.
So the story of that, and to illustrate that inspirational feeling, is the way and obviously on the podcast, unless you're looking at the video, there's I'm doing a hand gesture, which is my hands are like holding a beach ball. And I now, if you imagine that that's your awareness level of what I would now call real life, right? That's the real life awareness, which you go into when you're on a dance floor or on a meditative state. That's your soul level awareness. But then if you put your finger and thumb together, like in a small square, That's what I now call feel life, which is this existence, what we can see. So, technically our current real life is now feel life, where we interact with it. Okay. So when I was with my partner was in Canada, we went to a VR exhibition, right? And we went with her mum, and when we go into the VR thing, with the reason we knew we were in the same group is because we had our names above our head, so we could see who was who, right? So in that, it was a dinosaur thing. It was really cool. I highly recommend doing it. And we went, and at one point, Jess walked over to me. Her avatar walked over to me, but because we didn't have the hand things in VR, so her arms didn't move. But I felt her in this reality touch my hand, right? And so in the VR reality, her arm didn't move. In this reality, I felt something, right? So, and then she guided me, right? So there was no proof in the reality that I was in that the feeling that I was getting was something to guide me. So in the context of our inspiration, that's the equivalent of, when you come out of the VR and you come into the reality that we're looking at, and you feel something guiding you, that's something that you can't see, you can't know where it is, but you can feel it. That's the equivalent of something guiding you in the direction that you're meant to go in. But most people don't trust that feeling because of the lots of kinks in their hose pipe, because it quietens the signal. Does that make sense?
And fear and all that, and all the logic.
Yes, the logic. Yeah. And the classic one is often, with money, a lot. But I really feel to go that way, but it's more expensive, and I don't know where the money's going to come from. And it's like, okay, of course. And obviously, I'm not suggesting if you've only got like 10 grand in the bank or less than that, going and buying a Ferrari, that would be different. But
I've got my own really good example of this, which I've actually just literally recently done. Is, I've got all these qualifications, and I'm a qualified counsellor, and NLP practitioner, EFT practitioner, hypnotherapist, nutritionist. I do scalar therapy, Thai massage, like all of these things that I've studied for 30 years to build as a one-on-one practitioner. And I was getting this call in the last few years, and it's taken me away from that. And I was going, but I was holding on through fear, and also, but this is what I've worked towards. Like, this is what I'm doing. Like, this is what I'm doing. But something was going this. And I was thinking, well, I can't just let go of it because that's my bread and butter. Like, what am I going to do? But while I was putting all my energy into that and hustling for that, and the energy that it takes to work with people on a one-to-one level and everything, it was taking me away from this other kind of higher timeline that I've been shown. But I'm thinking, but I don't know if I can make that work. I don't know if, whether I can do that. And so anyway, I kept sort of resisting it, but then the universe was coming in, and it was giving me less clients, and it was blocking things for me. And in the end, the scalar device that I was primarily working with broke. On my last couple of treatments, it's like, it's not working, and I don't think it can be fixed. And I was like, okay, universe, I've listened, because I was dragging my heels in. I was going, look, I will do this as well, but I just need this for the money. And so my energy was kind of scattered, because it was like the fear was keeping me tethered to this lower timeline, but I wasn't quite trusting I could see this. I don't know if that's going to work, Anyway, I've just decided to stop giving that any more energy, and I took on a little cleaning job, because I know that that's not going to require any hustle. It's early in the morning, so I can get that done and then be doing my other things. And
amazing.
But it was so humbling when you've got all these qualifications to suddenly do a little cleaning job. But because I know it's temporary, and because I know it's by choice, because I've got this bigger project going on that's going to be, it's given, there's a vision, and it's a means to the bigger picture. I feel more in alignment. The universe, because I've taken this bold step, is meeting me there and giving me more inspiration and more opportunity. So I was actually talking to someone about it today, and I said, sometimes you just have to just drop it. Drop it and take that bold move, because when you do, the universe comes and sort of helps you. Because if that's what the niggle is, if that's what the guidance that you were talking about, that invisible guidance is telling you, if you just trust that and let go of all the fear and logic and everything else, because that's your purpose. For sure. Whatever that is, that's your purpose, isn't it?
100%. And that's it's like it's that's how great things are born. Like,
Yeah.
because a lot of people might think that, oh, well, this amazing thing that people see has just appeared. It's like not very unlikely. A person who ever got to that point has gone
Yeah.
through a shitstorm to get there, and
Yeah.
eventually, or most people just see the finished article. But there's a
Yeah.
lot of work behind the scenes, and a lot of trusting the moments where I've got very few amount of money in my bank account, but I'm going to take the step anyway, and then it
Yes.
and
Yeah.
it pay and it works, and it's like, oh god, yeah. But you might
Yeah.
like and I remember for my work and PlightClub and what I remember saying that like I'm not going back. Like it's not there is no there isn't plan B, but this
Yeah.
is it, right? And whatever it
Yeah.
takes, if I have to move back to my parents, if I have to we'll go on the
Yeah.
dot, if I have to do whatever it takes, this is going
Yeah.
to work. Like
Yeah.
and I'm still in the process of building it, do all
And
those things, but the
it's that
universe,
level of tenacity and
yeah,
focus and vision, and when you've got that, it gets you up out of bed in the morning. It makes you make the thing happen.
mm,
And if it's not coming from that place of purpose, you probably wouldn't have that level of tenacity behind it and give up after
yeah,
it
yeah.
flopped the first time, or
Exactly.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because you mentioned before we spoke like about vitality, right? You mentioned about and obviously being at Elevate and been there before there is a lot of vitality there. It's a great atmosphere. It's a very beautiful. It's a small festival, but it's like a heart to it, and that's
Mm.
obviously from the
Yeah.
it's an extension of you, and but the feeling when you touch on your purpose brings you more vitality. Like there's no one that tells me to get out of bed and do this work. It's a self-fueling thing. It's like there's nothing, and it's just I haven't so much energy for this
And
work that it's like,
you give yourself deadlines.
yeah,
I've got to get this thing done by then, and then you're like, "But it's only me giving myself that. That's the only pressure." But it's you give it to yourself because you really want that thing to succeed and that
yeah.
you and to continue because the 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 alternative is to not be living in your purpose.
And you've then that feeling of like, you've the feeling of not being in alignment is like it just feels like you've got someone else's socks on. It just
Yeah,
doesn't feel right, does it? And it's like, or maybe clothes. It's a bit more. But
yeah,
one of the tools I give my clients is to enable them to find their purpose as such. Is if you for the next 10 days, 2 weeks, just write down every time that you feel goose pimply excited. Those moments where you're like, oh, and it doesn't matter how big or small, and that's the point. And so go through, make a list of like 10, 15 things and try not to do what I'm about to say until you've got the list. And once you get that, go, okay, what is the verb that connects all these things? What's the doing that? And you're like, if you, and then allow that verb to iterate and simplify into it, and over time it will. And so as an example, when my list involved things like taking a really beautiful photograph or treading on a dry leaf. Sounds a bit weird, but or watching a person that I've trained go on stage or doing something amazing, or me going on stage, or me fixing things is part of it as well. And I initially thought, oh, maybe it's renovation or something. I was like, okay. But then when I moved house about 6 years ago, I was really like, I'd lived on a boat before, so I'd owned something before. And people were like, are you excited about owning a house? And I was like, well, not really. But what I was really excited about was jet washing the deck, which was out the back. And I was like, that's weird. That's really weird. This is when I came up with this thing. I was like, that's odd. And so I made this list, as I just said. And then what I realized as I refined it is like, it's realizing potential. That's my prime driver. That's my
yeah,
right. And so whether it's my potential, a situation's potential, or another person's potential, or a business potential, if I'm doing something where I feel like I'm realizing potential, then I'm on my dharma. Like that's what I'm meant to be doing.
yeah. I resonate with that massively because I'm the same with the garden, the house, or a person, and that's what's got me into trouble quite a lot in relationships. Is because I'm not seeing that person that's presented to me. I'm seeing the potential of them. So I've
Yeah.
realized that actually I'm better to work with people that are paying me to see their potential
Yes.
rather
Yeah.
than charitably giving it just to any guy that I like the look of his potential, but his behaviors aren't matching that at all.
Yeah. It's different. That scenario is challenging. When you can see it, you can't unsee it. Like, and and my ability to I have to like switch off my spidey senses sometimes when I'm around people, because it's like,
Yeah.
obviously unwanted mentoring or coaching is never a thing to do, which I would
No,
never
and
do.
you learn that in time, don't
Of
you?
course.
It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
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 the
yeah,
boundary. It's like I
yeah,
can see your potential, but you're not there yet. So
yeah.
when you
So it's
can
okay.
be.
Yeah, and when they are, and when a person is ready, like by the natural,
Yeah,
they will naturally ask questions. So it's fine.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh, I love that, and that's a really good way. I did to say to my friend, like when it comes to like intuition as well, like you can start to see um what things match what you were just saying. What you said, you get those goosebumps, but it's like I say. She said, "Oh, I'm just not very intuitive," and then she'd be talking to me and say, "Oh, and I just felt like really lit up." And I said, "Oh, you know that feeling? That's a yes." And she's like, "All
yeah.
right." And then another day in another conversation, she'd be like, "Oh, and I just felt really it's blocked." And I said, "Know that feeling? That's
That's
a no."
it.
But it's when you start recognizing what lights you up and what doesn't, then you can start witnessing, oh, what things do. And it sounds really simple, but we're so disconnected from what we want because we often have to just show up in responsibilities and we have to do, and so we can, and school doesn't encourage us to
No, not at all.
follow what we want to do,
So
and
that's
so there's a lot of adults that don't even know
yeah.
what they enjoy.
And that's what with the work that I do, it's enabling people, and this sounds a bit dramatic when I say it, but when we're born, we essentially get into like the equivalent of a spaceship that we can then navigate round. And it's got so much ability, our body, that
Yeah,
of listening to feeling things and sensing things and try like and it's all there. And you look at kids, like they are very they're because they got less kinks in their emotional hose pipe, the
yeah,
energy's flowing through them as it's meant to, and they're creative, they'll follow things, they'll just do whatever they want to do, blah, blah, until someone says don't do that or whatever it is, which is the
yeah,
condition happening. But as you go on the journey of the frequency mentoring, it's like your body thaws. It's like your feelings start to come back online. And then as a man in for the majority of my life who felt happy, sad, or angry, well, not really angry actually, because that long story, but the happy or maybe sad occasionally, the the ability and the spectrum of feeling that's come back online, and be able to sense things and be able to say to my partner now, it's like, I can hear the words you're saying, but your energy's not matching it, like
yeah.
with confidence. And she's like, oh shit, yeah, fair enough. and
Mm.
and to have a conversation on that level is like, it's like, and this is one of the reasons I don't really
And
drink.
actually, that comes from a lot of trust.
Yes, of
She
course.
has to fully trust you for you to be able to say that and her stop and check herself. Because
Yeah, and
otherwise you
yeah,
can be in that place
of
of
course, oh for sure. And I
and
often don't
a
say it as
long time
bluntly.
of vulnerability is kind of gathered for you both, is this level of trust, isn't
Yes.
it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, for
yeah.
sure. Over time, that does, we've been together for like 5 years. So
Mm.
it has that level of trust and ability to, but be able to, when your body does come back online in that way, like I've never had a problem with alcohol, but whenever I went out, I used to, drink or do it. But now I very rarely drink because it switches off my spidey senses. Like I can't feel as
Mm.
much. And I'm like, I'm navigating this place at like 20% because I've gotten like, because I'm, and sometimes that feels quite nice, but often,
Yeah.
yeah, often it doesn't,
Yeah.
and so, but the encouragement, and this is what what we'll do at Elevate and through the frequency experience, learning the why and the science behind why it's important to do that, and then actually having the practical experience. As my mission in life is to be a permission slip to help people onto this journey, and some people at Elevate will be like quite far on their journey and however long, and some people will be fresh to it, and some people won't be on it at all. Like, but as soon as you, and that's the mission of PlightClub, is like, as soon as you have permission to have one vulnerable conversation, you have started aligning with your Dharma. And at that point, and what all you need to do is keep going and trust the feeling of your instincts going and thing, and trust the removal of the kinks in your hose pipe, those signals. And that's the only thing we need to concentrate on. The rest will take care of itself. But it's really hard for your ego to get head around that and go, well, no, I need to work and do those things, which of course we did,
Mm.
you do, but you're going to do that anyway. Like, you're going to do something. Most people don't just sit on a cushion for the rest of their life and meditate and life arrives. It doesn't. But to have faith and action, and there's a quote from my friend Susie, is faith plus action equals miracles. And it's true, like, but it's taking action and steps in the direction based on your instinctive feelings rather than what you think you should do.
Yeah. And that's a big block.
It's big. It's a big for a lot of people. Yeah. And then, so yeah, with the frequent experiences, hopefully for people that come, you'll have a few less blocks that will want to encourage you to go more in that direction.
Yeah, amazing. And that's just one of the workshops at Elevate. Everything at Elevate is about clearing those kinks in the hose pipe, and also activating that light within us. And then we've got some workshops on the Sunday which are about really following your purpose. So it's like clear the density, activate the light, and then go out into the world. But how are you going to take that out into the world?
Yeah.
That's what we're really, and everyone that's involved in Elevate are doing this in their own little pocket. So there's lots of little tools to help everybody. There's lots of ways to access the magic, and it's having little tasters in lots of the different ways, isn't it?
Yeah.
To find out what really, really works for you, and what you really resonate with. Because there's some things I don't like doing within this realm of well-being, and and it's finding the things that you do like.
Yeah, for sure. And like the magic lies in your ability to witness an emotion happening and not react to it. That's where the magic. If you can do that, and i.e. feel what's there, then all the sensations, your life will transform.
Even coming to an event like Elevate
is for sure. Is exactly
even coming to the event is one thing, and then even stepping into the workshops again, if it's not something you're used to, all these kind of old stories can be playing out. Oh, what if I'm not good enough? And what if I look silly? And all of those things. Just getting yourself into the workshop can be 100%. The work, can't it?
But there's lots of the way there's lots of ways. The core of it is the same, right? Is it the ability to respond rather than react? Right, that's the heart of it. That's the heart of my work, and it's the heart of a lot of people's work. But the way people that get into that, and the way it's delivered, it needs to be delivered in a way that resonates with you, right? Like, and so for some people that might be breath work, for some people that might be frequency, some people that might be dancing, for some people that might be Reiki, for some people that might be yoga. For that
I mean, I don't really like kirtan myself, but other people that like to use their voice, maybe that's it.
Exactly.
But if you like to move, it's this one. Or if you like to, there's lots of different ways of finding that alignment in yourself, isn't there?
Yeah. And so that's the I think that the one thing for people to remember is just like and I was about to use a phrase it's a bad phrase, but there's nothing else that popped to mind. Plenty of ways to skin a cat. That's the wrong way to phrase it. It's an awful phrase, but I don't know where it comes from, but it popped into my brain. But there's lots of options of a way of getting into this work. There's lots of offerings, and at most conscious festivals you get to, there's a myriad of different things you can do, but it's about finding what works for you. And so what I tend to do at a festival like this is just, in a way, not to say I look through the program, but then you end up just kind of going on a little journey and trusting. It's like, oh, I'll go over there, and then, oh, that thing sounds interesting, I'll go over there, and just practice following your thing, and then just seeing what evolves. And what's really nice in these things is just do it consciously. It's maybe at the start of the festival, set an intention. It's like, this is what I want to be doing, and then after it's like, okay, what happened? How was that? And reflect back. And did I do the things that I wanted to do? And what things did I enjoy? What things did instinctively were a yes to me? And what things instinctively were a no? And then in that, you are practicing your vulnerability. You're gaining your muscles to be able to, in situations that are perhaps more confronting, which might be in a relationship scenario, you're doing the it's like, if you want to run a marathon, you don't just get off this seat and just run a marathon without any practice, right? You have to practice. And so it's in the day-to-day life where you can lift little weights before you then when you're in a situation where a big weight appears, you have done the work, so you can.
And also I think if you just get out of your own way and allow that childhood curiosity, like that the child within you that would just go and play with other people and strangers and different things, where you would just go and do that thing before the adult, before that ego's voice starts saying, oh no, you can't do that, or yeah, that's not very adult or whatever it is that kind of blocks you.
Yeah,
Because
what's that phrase?
it's
It's like,
actually once you get past those blocks, from then you start getting excited about going into all different types of spaces, and then you won't know yourself.
yeah, yeah. No, one of my clients is speaking to me today and talking about that. You know, he's a certain age and should be doing this, should be doing that, and you know, the whole thing about growing up, and it's like,
Mm,
where, like, in the context of where's there's the child in you, like the fun. It's like, who says that we need to grow up? Like, yes,
yeah.
there's a sense of maturity and a sense of
Mm.
things change, and I'm not
It's
saying
like
don't be adult.
decorum in certain situations, like, know when to.
Yes, of course. But that impish fun that a child has, like that's where you feel alive,
Mm,
and feeling like we come into this body for one reason, which is to feel, you know.
yeah.
And so feeling alive doesn't mean feeling happy necessarily. That's part of it.
Mm,
But feeling happy, sad, shame, guilt, whatever, that's a label that we're putting on energy moving through us. But that sensation of it going through is what we're here for, you know. And
mm,
so, and that ability to allow that to happen gets conditioned out of us. But when we start on the journey of reversing it and letting things go in that way, you start to feel more alive and more connected to life and more part of it. And then naturally, what happens is you want to end up serving others on that journey and to help, and it becomes a beautiful virtuous circle. And
yeah.
so my mission with my frequency work and with PlightClub, as I said, is to be a permission slip to enable people onto that journey so that then in time they give back. And so, and that's where I feel that the direction of humanity, there's a big soapbox moment, but will be shifted, you know, and that,
Yeah,
and we're, and there's,
totally with you, Adam, on that, and that's what fuels us, because we can see how the ripples can be created just from one person's work
yeah,
when we're
100%.
all doing it and we're all collaborating together and we're all creating ripples together, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's magic. It is,
It
yeah.
is indeed.
And so, where can people see you? Not just at Elevate, but where else are you offering this work?
So this year I'm at the festival called Unearthed Festival, which is in Wales. And then there's Elevate, I think, and I'm at Wilderness. And I think Wilderness before Elevate, isn't it? And then Elevate, and then I'm just signed to a festival yesterday called the Sondering, which is I don't want to just. It's worth checking out. It's around death, which sounds morbid, but they really say it
Mm,
on their site, and it's not about it's celebrating life, but through this. So it's really interesting. And
mm,
so we're doing a slight. It's similar to our Rave AF, but it's called Emosh Pit, which is like the rock version of it,
yeah.
in short. So that's in near Lake Windermere. So there's four festivals I'm at this year. And then if you want to reach out, and my name is Adam Slawson, so .com, and then also on Instagram is the same.
And are you running regular workshops in London?
Not at the moment. Like
No.
I'm not. No, I am actually. Just today, I'm doing a workshop, which is Trust Yourself When It Matters. So if you want a precursor to it, I'm doing it online on the 15th of June. So there's that. But at the moment, there isn't space for me to be able to do the regular Rave AFs or Emotion Pits and stuff. But watch this space. There is plans afoot to get those into
Oh,
back
good.
back back happening. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, well, it was really lovely to speak to you today, as
You too.
always.
Thank you very much. It was awesome. I look forward to
Yeah,
seeing you.
really looking forward. Yeah, really looking forward to it, and hopefully, um, yeah, I'll be able to make some workshops this year, because last
Yes,
year.
I'll see you on I want you raving your ass off in
Yes.
Rave AF.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and not
Perfect.
being judged, and not
No,
being
no, there'll be none
not
of that.
being
No.
too
Yeah.
much.
Yes. Hopefully being more than so much is like, if you can be more than me in that role, then that's a challenge.
Okay,
So
challenge on.
challenge on. Let's do it.
That sounds like a fun challenge.
Wicked.
Yeah,
A dance off, a Rave AF off.
a
Wicked.
Rave AF off. Yeah, they need t-shirts, don't they, for those?
Amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Wicked.
Oh, thank you, Adam.
Cool.
See you in August.